Biden-Harris admin redirects FEMA funds to illegal immigrants, prioritizes so-called equity in disaster relief. That's right. Time and time again. How many videos have I done to show evidence that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden don't care anything about the American people? They will put illegal immigrants first. They will put people in other countries like Israel or Ukraine before American citizens. It's just wrong, and this exemplifies that. I talked about it earlier after the hurricane hit in North Carolina, and people is begging for help, and Joe Biden saying, "Nope, we're tapped out. We're done. We gave you all we can give you," but yet they'll go and make sure illegal immigrants is straight. This is just wrong. I'm tired of them putting America last. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. And hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account. So follow me there as well. All right, so let's talk about this news. Now, this comes from the New American from Veronica Krylenko. Sorry if I killed that last name. But she reports that as the people of North Carolina, Georgia, and surrounding states are struggling to recover from the devastation left by Hurricane Helen, questions are being raised about the Biden-Harris administration's allocation of critical disaster relief funding. While hundreds remain missing in flood-ravaged Appalachian towns, with families waiting for federal assistance, it became apparent that more than $1 billion of Federal Emergency Management Agency or FEMA funds have been diverted for services to illegal immigrants, which is just wrong. How can they do that? How can they take money that's allocated for Americans in disasters and give it to illegal immigrants? That itself should be illegal if it's not. But according to the Federalist, FEMA, the agency responsible for coordinating emergency responses to natural disasters, redirected nearly $364 million in 2023 and an additional $650 million in 2024 to, quote, shelter service program. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. So no wonder they don't have any money to help the people ravaged from the hurricane. But this program, as described on the government's own website, so this is their own website, referenced by the outlet, provides humanitarian assistance to non-citizen migrants released from U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Short-term holding facilities. In collaboration with the Department of Homeland Security, officials allocated these funds to support, quote, orderly and humane release of migrants. This decision sparked sharp criticism as prioritizing migrant assistance diverted resources from urgent domestic needs. Woke transformation of FEMA. One of the entities to pick up the news was America First Legal, a conservative legal advocacy organization founded by Stephen Miller, a former senior advisor to President Donald Trump. We got the tweet here. They said FEMA's emergency food and shelter program has been reshaped to provide funding to families and individuals encountered by the Department of Homeland Security, aka illegal immigrants. $685 million taxpayer dollars have been reallocated to fund illegal aliens. So this makes sense now. Now it makes sense. Now we understand how Joe Biden can be like, you know what, we gave enough to y'all. This is all, we can't give you any more, because they gave all the money to illegal immigrants. Wow. In a series of posts on X, AFL broke down the FEMA apparent shift in priorities under the Biden-Harris administration. For example, AFL argued that FEMA's emergency food and shelter program has been reshaped to provide funding primarily to, quote, families and individuals encountered by the Department of Homeland Security at the southern border, also known as illegal migrants. According to AFL, $685 million in taxpayer dollars have been reallocated to fund services for these individuals, one of the posts read. Now, over the last 4 years, the Biden-Harris administration steadily transformed FEMA, the agency responsible for responding to natural disasters like Hurricane Helen, into an illegal alien resettlement agency that emphasizes DEI over public safety. Just wrong, just wrong. The group detailed, quote, the shelter and service program is designed to exclusively provide shelter and services to illegal aliens. Over $1 billion in taxpayers, $1 billion in taxpayer dollars have been allocated between fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024. So this is why FEMA don't have any money for Americans. For instance, FEMA allocated over $38 million to New York City, a sanctuary city facing an influx of illegal immigrants. The city has been using these funds to provide gift cards and hotel accommodations for migrants. This is despicable. So that's where they got the money to give to places like New York and Chicago. This is crazy. So they took money from us that's supposed to be saved for natural disasters. So now we're in hurricane season and we don't have any money because they gave it all away. AFL's thread highlights FEMA's increasing focus on equity. This priority mainly targets so-called vulnerable populations, such as those with functional needs or individuals whose primary language is not English. One key initiative AFL pointed to is the November 2023 post-disaster guide for local officials and leaders. This guide aims to ensure, quote, equitable recovery in disaster-affected areas. This guide prioritizes relief efforts based on race, sex, and sexual preferences. Why? Why? What does that have to do with people suffering from natural disaster? It doesn't matter your race, your sex, or your sexual preference when it comes to needing help in a natural disaster. This is sick, man. They implemented DEI into every aspect of this government, and now look what they have to show for it. AFL also took issue with FEMA's summary of 8 equity goals. These goals advocate for equitable outcomes and justice for all after natural disasters. Further, AFL emphasized FEMA's focus on specific groups such as people of color, women, and the LGBTQ plus community. This focus has drawn criticism for prioritizing these groups in disaster responses. Arguably, this emphasis diverts resources away from addressing the needs of broader populations. AFL argued that such policies imply natural disasters don't have the same impact on white straight men, when we know that's not the case. Disaster, it hurts everybody just the same. It doesn't matter if you live in a mansion or if you live in an apartment complex. If you got hit with a hurricane, like was seen in North Carolina, everyone is impacted. To conclude, the organization contended that FEMA is now using disaster response as a vehicle to push radical equity agenda. At the same time, FEMA's funds are being utilized to support and resettle illegal immigrants rather than providing aid directly to disaster-affected Americans. Wow. Now, during Hurricane Helen, from its landfall to its subsequent impact on multiple states, from September 5th to September 30th, FEMA faced significant criticism for its handling of the disaster response. Now, and you want to give these people 4 more years after this? The storm, a Category 4 hurricane, caused widespread destruction, leaving more than 120 people dead and many areas flooded, especially in North Carolina, Georgia, and other neighboring states. Critics argue that FEMA was slow to respond, which they were, because they don't have any money now, with some shelters in western North Carolina reportedly over capacity and lacking adequate food supplies. Journalists and social media users criticized FEMA for being nowhere to be found. Countless reports highlighted the agency's lack of adequate response, which fueled frustration among residents who were waiting for federal assistance. Wow, look at this. Alert, shelters in West North Carolina are over capacity and do not have enough food, and FEMA is nowhere to be found. I'm beyond infuriated. Chris, he said at Chris Hall, whatever that is, and I were luckily able to fill the gap with hot pizzas and Gatorade, as one shelter was 30 meals short. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Woman says her relatives in North Carolina have been stuck for 4 days and FEMA is nowhere to be found. She scolds Biden and Harris. Let's watch this clip.
Do you think the government is doing enough?
Honestly, I don't know how you did not have a formal press conference or something from either President Biden or Kamala Harris. I mean, how do you not say anything for 4 days? They've been stranded.
Camilla's too busy campaigning. She don't care about you plebes and how your property got destroyed. They don't care. They don't care at all.
For 4 days, and this is the first we've heard from them at all. FEMA is not on the ground there at all. They are not in these cities, not in these towns, and not in these villages.
Because they do not have the funds. They gave all the funds to the illegal immigrants.
Does your relative have food? Does she have water? Does she have the medication she needs?
They have a minimal amount of water. They have a minimal amount of food. They were able to get slightly down the mountain to get a little bit of gas, but they haven't been able to cut their way out yet.
When you say cut their way out, what do you mean?
There's trees down.
Yeah.
You have to have chainsaws up there to get the trees out of the roads. And that is if the mudslides didn't take the roads out completely. I can not even tell you how many families, even here outside of Charlotte, that are looking for their loved ones up in that area. No one knows anything.
You cannot depend on government, especially this government, especially this administration. They can't be counted on for anything. This is sad. This is sad. Some reference to August reports that FEMA ran out of money and therefore was no help to struggling Americans. That's what I was just alluding to. They gave all the money out. Anyone see a problem? FEMA's out of money, and look what they've spent on illegal aliens who have no business being here. This pissed me off. Look at that. 640.9 million through federal from FEMA. So this is just some of the stuff we talked about. I mean, this is crazy. Some observers argue that President Biden did not request additional funds for FEMA. At the same time, they noted he spent billions of dollars to support foreign wars. This comparison sparked further criticism of his administration's priorities. We all know, how many times I gotta say it? America last. When it comes to Biden, when it comes to Harris, they don't care anything about the American people. But FEMA ran out of disaster relief funding 2 months ago, right before this disaster, because Biden never formally requested more money from Congress or even so much as mentioned the proposed budget once in the last year. So FEMA don't have any money. And critics fiercely attack FEMA for prioritizing equity in the disaster relief efforts as outlined in its 2022-2026 strategic plan. They argue that this focus took attention away from addressing the urgent needs of disaster victims. Libs of TikTok, they said, in case you're wondering why the response of Hurricane Helen has been a disaster, FEMA Goal 1 is to instill equity as a foundation of emergency management. Look at this, equity. What has equity got to do with helping people? Everyone. Harris, Biden, Trump. How much we got left here? I know this is kind of long. This video going a little bit longer than what I like to do my videos for, but this is good information here. Vice President and Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris faced backlash for apparent inability to handle a disaster response. Conservatives blast Harris for participating in what appeared to be a staged disaster briefing. Yes, I saw that. And she also faced criticism for refusing to answer questions from the press. This added to the growing public dissatisfaction with the federal response. Look at this. Staged. Kamala Harris staged FEMA briefing, and the smug look on her face as press are ignored and literally pushed out of the room is blunt proof that a Harris presidency would be nothing but 4 years of exactly what we've been suffering through for the last 4 years. Just look at her face. Let's play this clip here. What the hell? Is she drunk again? Oh my gosh.
Thanks so much.
This way.
Heading out this way.
This is terrible. This is terrible. Won't answer any questions. At the time, Harris' boss, President Biden, spent a relaxing weekend at his go-to beach. Former President Donald Trump, Harris's opponent in the race, traveled to Valdosta, Georgia. The storm hit this area particularly hard. During his visit, he partnered with relief organizations to deliver supplies. Now, this is what a real leader does. I'm not going to play the clip here, but we see them on vacation. Her pretending that she's on the phone. Remember this picture here? Wasn't even plugged into her phone, right? The entire fiasco further reinforced the need to get the federal government out of the disaster relief business. FEMA is, of course, an unconstitutional federal agency that has seemingly done more harm than good during its existence. Disaster relief efforts would be much better handled at the state or local level in conjunction with private efforts. And I would agree with that. It seems like everything the federal government touches, they end up making it worse. Why would anyone want any type of federal intervention? But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.